put it in the chat. Okay, tonight we have a very, very special guest, Ben Wikler, who is the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. And Ben is going to give us updates and tell us about the stakes of the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin and the importance of holding that 4-3 majority, not only for Wisconsin, but for the entire country. And we're really fortunate to have Ben Wikler with us tonight. But before we start, I want to give credit to everybody who's part of the Grassroots Democrats HQ. So I'm just going to go through all our key people that make this organization happening. We have Ingrid Van Eckert, our vice president, and Heidi Hu, our CFO. Tamara Melzer-Levinson is our fabulous executive director. Davis Hahn is our senior strategist. Mana Shustari is our executive strategist. Robert Jimenez is our operations manager. Justin Kelly is our youth vote coordinator and field manager. Barry Rosenbaum is our senior editor. Andy Linden is our recruitment coordinator. Pratt Malik is our technology coordinator. Sydney Stern is our fellowship coordinator and distributive organizer. Pamela McAfee is our distributive organizer and community liaison. And Lily Howes is a distributive organizer and assistant to the fellowship program. I ask you all to give a round of applause for the people that make the Grassroots Democrats HQ run. Okay, now I'm going to introduce our senior strategist, Davis Hahn, who's going to speak on the importance of political engagement at this time in history. Davis, take it away.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And thank you so much to everyone for joining us tonight. It's great to see so many people who are taking our collective outrage that I know that we're all feeling and turning it into some productive action. So before we dive into the specifics of the Wisconsin race, I just wanted to give a brief snapshot of the national political climate. And if I could get the next slide, please. I will just start by saying that I'm going to be focusing on just some political analysis of what's happening right now. So please don't take that as me in any way minimizing or politicizing the very real, tangible impacts that the horrendous policies of this administration are having on people in their everyday lives. That being said, right now, I think it's worth remembering that Donald Trump is a historically unpopular president. He came into office with a lower approval rating than any other president except for himself 8 years ago. He won by a very, very small margin in historical context this past November, and his approval has been further on the decline ever since his second term started. That's largely because voters are souring in terms of their outlook on the economy. I know a lot of us are feeling that right now in our everyday lives. Prices are getting higher. The stock market is responding. Consumer confidence is very low. And, usually voters tend to always blame the party of the president in power when the economy is sagging. Oftentimes, that's even when the president doesn't have a lot of influence over what's happening economically. Right now, actually, though, is a pretty unprecedented moment in which the president's policies are directly causing this economic slowdown that we are all of a sudden seeing. That means that we are entering a period that is becoming increasingly favorable for Democrats electorally. And we're going to need to be willing to take advantage of that, get out there and talk to voters and score some opportunities to win big up and down the ballot. Next slide, please. And that is true even in quote unquote off years, not just a midterm year or a presidential year. And in fact, those are the years that we know that organizing matters and makes a difference even more. These tend to be lower turnout elections. A lot of folks may not even know that there are elections happening this year in their state. And we saw the impact that organizing can have in these races just 2 years ago in Wisconsin. When we elected Judge Janet Protasewicz, we flipped the court to a liberal majority for the first time in 15 years. The Grassroots Democrats HQ was proud to have contacted almost 500,000 voters on behalf of Judge Protasewicz's campaign. We partnered with the Democratic Party of Wisconsin for the vast majority of those voter contacts. And that had a really big impact. If I could get the next slide. You may be wondering, why should I care so much about these state elections that are happening this year when all of this negative change is happening at the federal level? Well, even if you don't live in Wisconsin, or even if you don't live in Virginia, which is also going to have some big elections later this year, you should care about these state elections. Number one, because we know that they have real consequences. We're all seeing right now that elections have consequences. But if you look at Wisconsin, since we flipped the court 2 years ago, the court has since struck down what was the most egregious partisan gerrymander at the state legislative level in the country. Prior to 2024, Democrats were winning something like 52-53% of the votes statewide in Wisconsin, but only getting 35 to 40% of state legislative seats. This new court majority struck down those maps, implemented fair maps for the first time in over 15 years, and the result was that Democrats almost took back the majority in both houses of the state legislature this past year, and are going to have a very good opportunity to take back the state house next year. This court majority also struck down a ban on drop boxes for absentee ballots. So these elections have an impact that that go beyond just the local impact. These impacts have consequences for national races as well. But also, we cannot afford at this point to take any opportunity for granted that we get to have yet another tool in our belt to fight back against the Trump administration's agenda. So much of that fight right now with Republicans controlling Congress has to happen at the state level. So we need to take advantage of every opportunity we can to build back power at the state level. Next slide, please. And lastly, before I turn this over, I know a question that is on a lot of folks' minds right now is, what should I be doing to protest the egregious actions that this administration is taking? Should I be, going to whatever peaceful protests are out in the streets in my community? Should I be focusing on electoral work and contacting voters? And the answer is really that we need an all of the above approach. Of course, we need to make our voices heard to try and influence the leaders who are in power now. But we know that long term, the only way that we're going to be able to undo some of the damage that this administration is doing is by building back political power through electoral victories. That work is long and it has to start early. Of course, we have this election coming up that we're going to be working so hard on, but we're going to be immediately organizing for the midterms after that. We need to be talking to voters consistently as they feel more and more the impact of the policies that are being implemented at the national level, and make sure that they're ready to go out and make their voices heard at the ballot box, so we can take back power in not just this year, but in 2026 and beyond. So now I'm going to turn it over to our operations manager, Robert Jimenez, who's going to talk a little bit about our work in Wisconsin last year and for this race.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. It is unmuted.
Oh, it's on you? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, everybody can hear me. Good. So, hi, I'm Robert, and I'm gonna talk a bit about what we did in 2024 with the Wisconsin Coordinated Campaign, and then I'm gonna talk about what we're doing now. So, next slide. And just to give a little bit of an overview on last year, 2023 to 2024 as a whole, we contacted almost 41 million voters in our entirety. That was 11 million phone banking, 28 million texts, 291,000 postcards, voter registration, and over 80,000 doors knocked. And then to kind of give you a picture of the actual work we did in the 2023-2024 election cycle in Wisconsin, we did over 450,000 general phone calls, 221 texts to youth, 35,000 calls to youth, and then over 32,000 postcards into the state. And just to give you an overview of what we're doing so far, we started working in February, so we're about just over a month in, and in this small period, we've already done up to over 241,000 calls for Judge Susan Crawford, and this also we've also done over 32,000 postcards into the state. That is a huge number, and we have only a few more weeks. So let's see if we could double or triple this. And then if you're asking, how can I volunteer? How can I be a part of this? And how can I get involved with the last few weeks that we have here? We have phone banks on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays. And if you can't make any of those days, we also have a link so that you can make calls on your own time whenever you have time. Let's say you have like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. You could commit to some calls then as well. And if you're local to Los Angeles, we also are doing a GOTV in-person phone bank here in Los Angeles, so you can sign up for that as well. In the chat, we're going to put the links to sign up for all of these phone banks, in-person opportunities, postcarding on your own, and doing calls on your own time as well. So it's pretty easy to get involved, and there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I'm going to pass it over to Justin Kelly, our youth vote coordinator and field manager, so he can let you know everything that we're doing on the youth realm.
Amazing. Thank you, Robert. So I really quickly just want to go through the impact that the GDHQ had in the youth space last election cycle, all across the country. So in the 2023-24 cycle, we were able to hire over 353, or exactly 353 young adults across the country who took part in our training program called Organized for Democracy. They made 767,000 volunteer phone calls to young voters who are 18 to 29 years old, and tons of federal races across the country, and that includes the 2023 election to elect Judge Protasewicz. That also helped us flip the Virginia state legislature blue. Several congressional seats we were able to flip and defend, and Senate races across the country as well. So to just give you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing in the youth space for this specific race in Wisconsin this winter, we are currently, a couple weeks ago, hired and onboarded a group of 30 students of young organizers to our Organized for Democracy program, which is a training program where we we hire young adults across the country. They participate in a training program for this one is 6 weeks. We pay them to do training to get engaged with the fundamentals of organizing, what it even means to be an organizer. They get to meet a lot of special guests. And then for the rest of their time between trainings, they do 5 hours of volunteer work to make calls to youth voters 18 to 29 years old in the states that we work in. So for Wisconsin, through just their first week of calling, they already made 19,000 calls to young voters who are 18 to 29 years old. So we're really excited about this program to see the impact we can have on the youth vote, because we know that's going to be super critical to electing Judge Crawford on April 1st. And then outside of this as well, we are partnering with some national youth groups, including Voters of Tomorrow, College Democrats of America, of course, WisDems, Young Democrats of America, Blue Future, High School Democrats, etc., to be doing a weekly youth phone bank where we're also contacting 18 to 29-year-old voters in Wisconsin. We just had a really exciting one today with DNC Vice Chair David Hogg and Adam Met from the band AJR. Next week, we are going to be having special guest DNC Vice Chair Malcolm Kenyatta joining us, and these will also be weekly every Tuesday through the end of the election. So with that, I think I will pass it back to Robert to introduce our special guest.
Hi everybody, so I am back and I have the honor of introducing Ben Wikler, who is the chair of WisDems. It is amazing that we're having him come join us again. Many of you may know that we had the honor of having Ben Wikler here for 2023 when we elected Judge Janet Protasewicz. We're back here in 2025. We want to hold on to that liberal majority, and I will pass it on to the amazing chair, Ben Wikler.
Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, all of the leaders here, and Justin, everybody involved in Grassroots Dems HQ, Melissa, the whole crew, all of the dozens of folks who are on this Zoom, all of the hundreds of people who have helped, hundreds, maybe thousands, who've knocked on these doors, written these postcards, made these phone calls, sent these text messages. It is game-changing. It is a secret weapon on our side that Republicans do not have that has helped us power victories that were unlikely, even impossible on paper, but you have helped make real. I'm so grateful for all the extraordinary work we just reviewed and the extraordinary work underway right now. And we are 3 weeks away from an election that will really be the first test for the grassroots, for the pro-democracy coalition, for everyone who believes in freedom, justice, decency, democracy in this country against the oligarchy, against Elon Musk, who has made this Wisconsin Supreme Court race his personal priority and poured in more than $10 million of his fortune into helping Brad Schimmel, also known as Abortion Ban Brad. This is a fight against Donald Trump, who in the literature the Republicans are using to recruit voters for this race is featured constantly. Republicans are saying support Trump by voting for Brad Schimmel. It's a way to demonstrate that Susan Crawford, who is the kind of decent, kind, just public servant who spent her life in a public service career as a district attorney, a prosecutor in state government, helping make sure that the laws were faithfully executed, then in private practice defending workers' rights, voters' rights, Planned Parenthood, in a case called Planned Parenthood versus Brad Schimmel, where she was the Planned Parenthood's lawyer, and then as a judge, where she's dedicated her life to building the kind of state and state government that really everyone deserves to be able to grow up in. Exactly the kind of person that Elon Musk is trying to drum out of government at every level. If we win this race, we show that Elon Musk's billions of dollars, his massive investments, his corruption, his extremism doesn't rule this country, that we can fight back and that we can win. And your help can make that possible. That's one reason why this is so critical. But there's also the direct impact of this race, because this will be the tie-breaking vote on Wisconsin's state Supreme Court, as the state Supreme Court reviews whether the pre-Civil War abortion ban is enforceable in the state, while it determines if the Republicans win, whether to re-gerrymander our state legislature and lock in Republican majorities even when the state's population doesn't want them, or whether we have a path, the potential to review our congressional maps, which, if the Supreme Court struck down our maps as an unconstitutional gerrymander, could mean 2 more U.S. House seats, which could be 2/3 of the way towards winning a U.S. House majority. The only reason we have a Republican House majority right now is because Republicans won the Supreme Court in North Carolina, gerrymandered that state, and grabbed 3 House seats for Republicans that had been held by Democrats. If that hadn't happened, if we'd won those North Carolina Supreme Court races, then right now Hakeem Jeffries would be the Speaker of the House. And Wisconsin is the way to win and fight exactly in the way that we needed to do then and can do now to open up a brighter future. It's not just the House in 2026. It's also the fact that Wisconsin's Supreme Court came the closest of any state Supreme Court, the closest of any state to overturning the 2020 election. It came within a single vote on our state Supreme Court in 2020. Brad Schimmel was asked whether he thought that case that rejected Trump's appeal to attempt to overturn that election was properly adjudicated, and he refused to answer. And then in a speech to a Republican group, to Turning Point USA, he said that Trump was screwed over in 2020, which is pretty clear what it means in 2028. In the Senate race in 2028, when Ron Johnson's up for re-election, and we plan to defeat, and when we hope it's not Trump somehow on the ballot again, when a Republican's on the presidential ticket in 2028, if Brad Schimmel wins this race, he's explicitly on track to be the guy to make sure that whoever gets the most votes, it's the Republican who actually gets the seat. So the presidency, the Senate, the U.S. House, it's all on the line. And this is the race that will determine the majority in the state Supreme Court, potentially all the way through the next redistricting, because the next 5 state Supreme Court races will probably be people running for re-election. That usually results in a victory. The last time an elected Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin lost a re-election bid was more than half a century ago. This time it's an open seat. So if Brad Schimmel wins, he's probably there for the long term, and he's probably casting the tie-breaking votes all the way through the 2032 census, which will determine House and state legislative lines through 2042. 17 years from now, we'll be living with the consequences of this race. And if we elect Susan Crawford, the consequences will be a future of justice and freedom and democracy and the rule of law in the state that is the closest in the entire country. The only state where 5 of the last 7 presidential races has come down to less than 1 percentage point. That's less than 30,000 votes, where the smallest change in voting rights can shape the outcome of national elections and the balance of power in the United States of America. So even if you are not in Wisconsin, don't really care about Wisconsinites, have nothing to do with this state, this race is interested in you. It will affect your life and the life of every other person in this country. And your activism, your volunteering right now, can make a difference in all of those lives, in all of those political outcomes, and in the future of the state where I'm raising my kids, where I grew up, that I love, a state that was once a progressive champion, that was rigged by the right after Republicans won a trifecta, where they smashed unions based on a trumped-up budget crisis and attacked workers and attacked our state government. Then they rigged our political system and rigged our maps, and this race is critical. It's key. It's the only path to undoing that damage and stepping forward. If we win now, we have a shot at winning a Democratic trifecta in 2026 and unrigging Wisconsin for the long term. And that journey mirrors this country's journey, because now the whole country has been taken into a Republican trifecta just as Wisconsin was in 2010. And right now, on the basis of trumped up budget crises that Elon Musk is inflicting on us, the main budget problem we have is that the ultra wealthy aren't paying enough taxes, and they want to cut those taxes even more. On that same basis, they're attacking people who work in the public sector for the government. They're attacking unions. They're attacking working people. They're attacking Social Security. They're attacking Medicaid and healthcare. They're doing the things nationally that Scott Walker dreamed of doing in the state of Wisconsin. And if we show that we can fight back and win in Wisconsin, we show this whole country, we show this whole movement that we can fight back and win nationwide. So your partnership, your help, your engagement, your volunteering, your donating in these final 3 weeks can make all the difference to show ourselves we still have what it takes to fight and win, that we can get up off the mat, that this can be a democracy where the people have the final word and not just the mega billionaire oligarchs. That is all in your hands in these final 3 weeks. And that's why I'm so grateful to Grassroots Democrats HQ, because this fight is winnable. The wind is at our backs. We have done more voter contact in this race to this point than we did in 2023 when we won by 11 percentage points. And it's not even close. We've contacted more than twice as many voters in the time since this race began than we did in the same race in 2023. You helped to power that. On the ground, we have more volunteers. We're talking to more voters every day. Musk has poured $6 million into America PAC to go knock on doors with his paid canvassers. But our volunteers are crisscrossing communities in every corner of the state every single day. And if we win, when we win, we will know that this was a people-powered victory and that you were among those people who believed in democracy enough to fight back even when things looked the bleakest for this entire country. So for all those reasons, I'm so grateful for everybody's amazing work, so grateful for your partnership, so grateful to everyone who's clicking on those links in the chat to chip in and to volunteer. We have a chance to show the entire world that all is not lost in the United States of America in the first statewide election of the Trump-Musk era. We have exactly 3 weeks and 2 minutes at this point until the polls close, and your people power can make all the difference to be able to win. Thank you all so much. I'm so fired up. Let's do this.
Thank you, Ben. That was fantastic. It encouraged everybody to do what they're doing and do more. And you explained how the Wisconsin Supreme Court race is so essential to the whole country's circumstance and future elections. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? I don't see any in the chat. Do people have any questions that they'd like to ask Ben? And we'll be glad to put them to him. So if you want to put them in the chat, or if you want to show me, I don't know if we can make the screen show everybody so I can see if somebody's raised their hand. That may
And
be a
then
possibility too.
Melissa, I'm going to read them out. I'm going to read them out to you, and then we can also take you guys off of spotlighting if you want to take
Okay.
them off of spotlighting. So one of the question is, did we hear correctly that Musk had put in $1 million? Can you explain what the impact of that is happening in the state?
He's put in $10.2 million. He's put in more. Yes, that is as of today. He added 2 million more today. He's put in about 6.2 million into America PAC, which is doing a massive paid field campaign, and another 4 million into the Building America's Future PAC, which is running ads all over Wisconsin. And that number is climbing very steadily. He might soon be the biggest donor in the history of any judicial election in the United States. So that is what we're up against. We are being outspent. That does not mean that we're being outcommunicated. We're going toe to toe with him. One of the things that's striking is you get a lot less bang for your buck when you just pay people to go knock on doors through the vendors that he works with, as opposed to what we do, which is we hire organizers to work with teams of volunteers to do this work. When Grassroots Democrats HQ volunteers make a phone call, you're not being paid to do it. The cost of generating that phone call is much less. And so we can actually stretch our dollars much further. Same thing with ads. Our candidate buys the TV ads. By law, that means that she gets the lowest rate. Whereas when his super PAC buys the ads, it's often paying 2, 3, 4 times as much per ad. So we don't need to outspend them to outcommunicate and outorganize them, but we do need resources to be able to fight back. And that's what your help helps to provide.
Ben, I see one question. They're asking, how reliable do you think the polling data is?
Very unreliable because no one knows exactly who's going to vote in the spring Supreme Court election. The polls I've seen, well, the first thing that is good is that every poll I've seen has us ahead. The Republican talk radio host just released a poll that under two different scenarios has us up by 4 percentage points or has us up by 7 percentage points. That roughly tracks with the other polling that I've seen. But if Republican turnout goes through the roof and ours doesn't, then we could easily lose. That's what happened in 2019. Right before I was chair, Republican turnout spiked because they were kind of able to nationalize and get Republicans to vote based on their allegiance to Trump. They wound up winning by 0.5 percentage point in a race that the polling had said was leaning towards Democrats by 8 points. I also experienced 2023, where we saw a poll the week before the election that said we were only up by 2, and then we won by 11 because turnout surged on our side and not on the Republican side. So this is a lot about the level of grassroots energy to actually get people to the polls, and I don't think any kind of poll is very good at capturing what's happening there.
So
Thank
we
you.
only have time for one more question, it turns out. So I'm gonna pick the one out of the chat, Melissa, if that's okay, that a lot of people are being asked about when we are actually phone banking. So can you speak to the constitutional amendment that is on the ballot and how that's affecting the race as well? And then when we're done with this question, everybody, do not worry. We're going to stay on with you so that the Grassroots Democrats HQ can be answering some more questions with you. And we will take a group photo with Ben before he leaves. So Ben, if you could talk about that constitutional amendment.
Sure. Thank you, Tamara. So there's a lot on the ballot. There's the statewide Supreme Court race, by far the most significant race. There's a superintendent of public instruction race where Jill Underly, supported by the Democratic Party, up against Brittany Kinzer, who is trying to move Wisconsin to a voucher system. She ran a for-profit voucher-funded network of private schools before now that worked with unlicensed teachers and opposes teacher licensing requirements before running for state superintendent. And she has support from the kind of pro-voucher, anti-public school movement here. That is a big fight as well. There are local races all over Wisconsin, and there's a constitutional amendment that basically puts into the Constitution what is already law in Wisconsin, which is a photo voter ID. When that law was passed, the goal of the law was really to try to block Black Wisconsinites and young Wisconsinites from being able to vote. Republican lawmakers were briefed on the impact on Black and young Wisconsinites, obviously there's overlap there, and how it would make it harder for them to vote. And a whistleblower, a former Republican staffer who became a whistleblower, said Republican lawmakers were giddy at the impact that this law would have because so many people didn't have photo IDs, even though they were legitimate voters. But it went into law, and it's the law right now. And this constitutional amendment wouldn't change anything other than making it harder to move to a world where every eligible voter is able to cast a vote. This is almost certain to pass. It is, and that's because the only people voting are people who already have those IDs, for whom it feels like not an inconvenience at all. And because in general, intuitively, if you have a photo ID, you don't really think about the fact that a lot of people don't. It has no particular effect on election security, as we can tell from enormous amounts of research. But if it does pass, when it does pass, then we win a trifecta. Then we just work to make sure that everyone gets a photo ID so that everyone can cast a ballot. The next step is just to make sure that everyone has access to that kind of identification, because right now a lot of Wisconsinites don't. So we have endorsed a no vote, and if people talk to you about it, you should explain the context. It doesn't change anything. It just adds a constitutional amendment to a law that was intended to make it harder for some people to cast a ballot. But the thing I would say is, for a lot of people who support voter ID laws, they absolutely will still support Susan Crawford for state Supreme Court. So don't make people, if someone is not in the same place as you, I would not argue that point. I would just focus on the most important thing, which is the Supreme Court race, and really drill down into the question of making sure that we have a Supreme Court that is not trying to overturn our elections. That is the ultimate form of election security, is a Supreme Court that believes in democracy.
Ben, can I
Fantastic.
ask you one last question? What is the picture of the cow behind you?
It's just a picture of a cow that I like.
I'm
Here I
pretty
am
sure
in
that would be
Wisconsin. What can I do?
Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay, so so
It's a
this
happy
is
cow.
what we're gonna do, because we know that you have another meeting that you have to get to. We're gonna do a quick photo with you, and then we're gonna continue with the happy hour. So what I'd like everybody to do is to turn your cameras on, because we want to show people that we had 60 people here on a random Tuesday night to talk about Wisconsin because we know that this is important. We know that even though Musk is pouring all that money in, the might of our field work and the donations that you are going to make tonight and continue to do of your time and your funding, that is going to be what helps us to win this election. So I don't know if you have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or a beer, but Robert, if you want to do this, and I actually want to let you know, I have my Wisconsin mug that I have out. So everybody raise your cup and smile, and let's take a picture because we were here with Ben tonight.
All right, we got everybody in this photo. 1, 2, and we have another screen. And 3, perfect.
So we're gonna say goodbye to you, Ben. We're gonna thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And then
you.
we're gonna keep on going.
Thanks, everybody. So grateful for all your work. and all
Thank
your partnership.
you.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, so I want to point out that we are, actually it is for me now, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I want to say, didn't want to jump in and do something that I shouldn't be, but hi, my name is Tamara Melzer Levinson, and I am the Executive Director of the Grassroots Democrats HQ. I'm here to help us to be finishing off, but when I'm done speaking, don't worry. A bunch of you had some more questions, and we're going to stay on the Zoom so that we can be answering them. But I do want to take a moment to give a plug. Ben just talked about what it is that is happening in Wisconsin, the work that is being done. We have phone banks every single day of the week. The Grassroots Democrats HQ also brought on 30 young adults that are making and we can take the link down. We can just keep putting it into the chat because I want people to see people's faces. It's just so much nicer. I want to give you guys all the opportunity to think about making a donation right now. What I want to tell you is that Grassroots Democrats HQ, even though we didn't have all the funding, we knew that we needed to bring in our youth programming. We also are partnering with I'd say there are about 20 different organizations right now. And if any of you are with another organization and you're not partnering with us yet, let us know, and we will make you a co-sponsor to the phone banks that we are running. We're running them alongside the Wisconsin Democratic Party. What we need to do is some nights we have 60 people. On some days we've had over 100 people. We need to consistently get our phone banking up so that we have 100 people every time that we are phone banking on Zoom. But what happens if you're somebody who you're like, but Tamara, I know how to phone bank. I do not need to be on a Zoom. We give you that opportunity with a call anytime link. But all the work that we do as a grassroots evergreen organization, it does take funding. So we decided to pair with the Wisconsin Dems, and there is a link in the chat. When you make a donation, 50% of your funds are going to come to the Grassroots Democrats HQ, 50% are going to go to Wisconsin, and I'm going to challenge you for one more thing. I'm going to ask you to consider making that a monthly donation. The Grassroots Democrats HQ will be continuing after we're finished in Wisconsin. We're going to roll right into Virginia. When we're working in Virginia, we're going to be working first on the governor's race as well as the House of Delegates races. What we know is that our best chance of kicking it to Trump and President Musk is to make sure that we win in Wisconsin, we win in Virginia, we win the House of Delegates, and then we roll right into 2026. What is that doing? These are all the momentum that is needed to take back the House in 2026. But if we don't win, if we don't give it our all, if we don't stand up to what we have to do by donating our time and donating our money, we are never going to make it there. So I'm going to take my spotlight off. We're going to continue to put the link into the chat, and we're going to keep watching to see if you can all sign up to volunteer. And I'm challenging you, sign up to volunteer for 3 shifts. Guys, we still have 3 weeks left. So if you just phone bank one time a week, you would be bringing yourself all the way till the end of the month on April 1st. No fooling, we can't lose this election. And then click that link to donate. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but donations are down everywhere. You're here because you know that this is an important election. Please, please, please give us $2, $25, $50, $100, $1,000, and know that every donation will go 50% to the Grassroots Democrats HQ and 50% to the Wisconsin Dems. And then we're going to sit here right now. We're going to do more Q&A. Melissa Davis, Robert, Justin, and I are going to help you out answering questions. And we're going to thank you very much. I personally originally originated in Minnesota. I went to school in Wisconsin. Yes, that was a long time ago that I did that. But I will tell you, this state, it's purple. It's a state that we can make a difference. And it's a state that one phone call at a time, one door knock at a time, one postcard at a time, we're going to win. And we're going to tell the country that we are not giving up. Volunteers United cannot be divided. I truly believe that. So having said that, thank you all very much. Take a look in the chat. Click, 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 donate and volunteer. I'm going to turn it back to Melissa. Melissa can start curating our questions. Melissa, do you see any that are in the chat that you want to lift up first?
I don't. I might have missed some. One question that
Okay.
was asked to Ben but didn't have a chance, but we can say what we're doing is, are you including social media resources to expand message reach? This person, Helen Child, says it's critical to success. Can we talk to, do we know what Ben and the WisDems are doing that way?
Yeah, the WisDems do have a social media messaging platform that they are using to be getting the information out. They actually have as well a daily email. And Robert, do you just want to speak to what their daily email is as well, in case people want to sign up to be getting that?
Yeah, so it's great if everybody checks out their social media at WisDems on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, all that good stuff. And if you go onto their website, I'll find that link and put it into the chat. They have a Message Mondays. That is their Monday weekly newsletter where they're putting out all the top headlines, all the top news headlines that they're finding, and they're giving us counter information to put out. So when we're on the phones, when we're talking to friends, when we're talking to different people, we have responses from the Wisconsin Democratic Party to get back to people on what's going on and what are they saying to combat any of the negative news articles that are coming out.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay.
And any other questions? We're here to answer whatever questions you might want to ask.
How do I get more addresses? I still have letters to send to Wisconsin.
Okay, so we're gonna put into the chat. So we've been putting a link in the chat that is constantly giving you the volunteer opportunities. In that link, you can find, like, so go ahead and click on it. It says click here to sign up to volunteer. And when you click on there, you're gonna see, and I'm gonna go ahead and just share my screen so everybody can actually see it. You can scroll down and you can sign up. One thing that I want you all to sign up is on Friday, we actually have Judge Crawford will be here for a happy hour, so you can come and listen to her. You can sign up to be phone banking alone at home or with us, and then keep on scrolling down. And we do have the postcarding is also here. So if you see, wait, well, I don't know why I can't scroll. Oh, there it is. Postcarding. You see how you're going to click here for postcarding, and when you do that, you're just going to put in all of your information and your first name, last name, etc., and we will send you 25, 50, or 100 addresses. So go ahead and find how you want to volunteer. I will suggest that for those of you that are postcarding, make sure you get it out as quickly as possible because the mail system can go slow. And number two, what I want to make sure that you know is when you're done postcarding, get on those telephones. We do not want to wake up the day after the election and think, oh, we lost by a little bit. Perhaps I should have been making a phone call. We actually have on our Zoom right now, many of our fellows that are helping us to be running phone banks. We have Lauren Patanad, who is an incredible trainer with us. If there are any other trainers for phone banking that are actually in the room and I've not recognized you and you are leading phone banks, please go ahead and put that into the chat. We have Carrie O'Malley, I just have to say, who is a nonstop volunteer, who I have no idea how many phone calls and postcards and texts that woman sends, but she alone could win the Wisconsin election.
We do have
okay.
a question which you sort of answered, which is if
Which
you've
is?
never phone banked before, is there training?
Well, Melissa, you have been one of our prime trainers from the very beginning. Go ahead and answer that.
Yes, there is definitely training. We encourage anybody to sign up to Phone Bank. Don't worry about not having done it before. We'll walk you through it and give you all the training you need, and we encourage you to do it. You're going to have fun, and when you do it, you'll see how it's done and you'll just do it with ease. So trust us, you'll get the training you need.
Fantastic. Anything else that people have? Oh, wait, actually, Catherine Mitchell had a question. So can you explain voter ID again? It is a state law now and could become a federal law. She was confused. Lauren, can I turn that question over to you? Because I know that as somebody that has been training on phone banks every day, that you can probably explain what is going on with that amendment. Am I putting you on the spot, or can I explain that? Or can you do it?
Do my best, if that's okay.
Go for it.
My understanding of it, and it was very lovely that Ben answered that question, is it's kind of like the Save Act Junior. It's not going to do anything, but it's just reinforcing the fact that you have to have a photo ID. And in Wisconsin, it's not going to change the actual laws. You have to have a photo ID, which obviously impacts both immigrants and people who might have like moved or whatever and can't register. But the SAVE Act is like our bigger concern, and that's where it gets a little iffy, where your birth certificate has to match with your registration, so that just kind of messes up women registering.
Okay, and then I also want to just add in that the question that Catherine asked as well was, could it become a federal law? No, this is an amendment to the state constitution. So when they are voting on this in Wisconsin, they're only voting on it as a state law, not a federal law. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lauren. That was fantastic. Really appreciate you. Melissa, do you see any others in here? And by the way, please keep on donating. Please keep on volunteering. We want to show Wisconsin Dems how much we are behind them, and we would appreciate you showing how much you are behind us.
I'm
You know,
sorry.
the only other question was, where do you go to get training?
Post office, the postcards. I see where I can order postcards, but I only want addresses. If I click 25 postcards, will I
Exactly.
get
Yes. 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 Yeah. You're going to get a script, and you're going to get the addresses, and that will get emailed to you within 24 hours. That's actually part of the fellowship program that we have, where we actually have young adults from across the country that are processing all of those requests. We have an extensive youth program at the Grassroots Democrats HQ, and that powers our postcard program.
Good.
Okay, we've got a question that says, can anyone repeat the information about how whoever wins the Supreme Court race will likely be in the post for the next 17 years? Ben went through that very fast, and people are asking if we could explain that again. Does anybody recall what Ben said?
There will be a recording that we will share afterwards, but why 17 years?
He talked about how it's been over, a Supreme Court judge in Wisconsin hasn't lost their re-election in over half a century. And because of that, that means that if elected, somebody like Brad Schimel would still be in office. And then once the census comes into play, or Davis, if you want to add into that.
Yeah, well, Wisconsin Supreme Court justices serve 10-year terms, and my guess would be that because this is to fill a vacancy because one of the judges is retiring, that this election will be to serve the remainder of that judge's term.
Plus a 10-year if they get elected again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that would be our young people who are studying law and constitutional law to understand these things for us. Thank goodness.
And I will just add that once judges get elected, it's very, very rare for incumbent judges to lose re-election. So that's why he would have said 17, assuming that second 10-year term is pretty much a given.
Right.
Fantastic. Okay, we are coming up towards an end. Melissa, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, except we thank you so much for all that you're doing, and we hope you will continue to do it, and tell your friends, bring as many people as you can to our phone banks. Help us win this election. It's going to be really important, as Ben explained. So thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I want to give a huge thank you as well to Davis Hahn, who always puts the very best pieces of information and slides together. I want to thank Robert and Justin, the backbone of our staff that is year-round, that is making sure that this was put together. The fact that we had 60 people here to begin with on a Tuesday took a lot from everybody who was doing recruitment. Please come and join us again on Friday. We get to hear directly from Judge Crawford, and bring 3 of your friends to phone bank. Don't stop volunteering all the way through April 1st. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.